Welcome to Friendeavor, the podcast, the weekly podcast where we explore the highs and lows of friendship with your hosts, Danielle and Kayla.
As we journey through life, our friendships often evolve and change, ebb and flow, and sometimes even come to an end. Danielle and I are lifelong advocates for the power of friendship, and we are here to guide all of us through the many challenges and joys that come with building and maintaining strong, meaningful connections with those around us.
Join us each week as we deep dive into the intricacies of friendship, from navigating conflicts to fostering new relationships and everything in between. With insightful interviews, personal anecdotes, and expert advice, Friendeavor is the perfect podcast for anyone looking to strengthen their bonds with the people they love.
So, whether you are on the go, taking care of chores, or just settling in, get ready to explore the world of friendship on Friendeavor, the podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Friendeavor.
Hey, guys.
This is episode 13, where we are talking about common goals. It is super important to know what you and your friends want out of your friendship. Is someone striking up a relationship with you for a good time and not a long time? Do you know that going into it? Do you have hugely different interests? Is it like, oh, we clicked, but we don't really know anything about each other? So in today's episode, we're going to dive into what common goals means and how it affects you and your friendships. Kicking it off, we're just going to go ahead and stick with that good time, not a long time thought, because I know some people who live life just very loosely, and that's totally fine. If that's what works for them, that's great. And they'll make relationships along the way. And we've talked about this before, and I call it the tourist. Someone who meets people, I wouldn't say necessarily uses them, but it kind of feels that way to the person. They get the stories, they get the pictures, they get the memories, they move on with their life. And it's not the same as the revolving door, because it's not like they're just flinging through best friendships. It's just kind of like they're moving on without a firm foundation of friendship. Does that make sense?
Right.
You're not really going to super find emotional support in those kind of relationships. So a common goal in friendship should be emotional support. I'm there for you, you're there for me. Friends often seek to be there for each other during difficult times, listening ear, empathy, and understanding. We've talked about all that before, but it can't just be a one-sided thing. You have to have a common goal that you're both going to be there for each other in the good and the bad.
And even if your friend is not a quote unquote emotional person, or if you're not an emotional person, emotional support should be a common goal between you, because you should be interested in supporting each other through emotional times, and even not like dramatic emotional times, just in general.
Yeah.
That should be an interest for you.
Yeah. And this is not something like, and a lot of the stuff we talk about, it's kind of abstract, right? It's kind of abstract thoughts. It's not like you meet someone and you sit down and be like, these are our common goals that we want to hit in our friendship. Right. It may take some time before you realize what your common goals are, or you might think you're going into a friendship with having common goals with somebody, and it turns out, oh, I don't really actually know them like at all. And common goals are not necessarily, or uncommon goals is not necessarily going to break a friendship, but it, without recognizing that you might not have that, you could find yourself getting hurt along the way.
Right.
One common goal in friendship is that you should both be having fun and enjoying each other's company. If only one person likes being together with the other person, or the friend group or whatever, I mean, I don't think you're really getting...
Is there even a friendship there?
Is there even a friendship there? Yeah. Is there even a friendship there? So shared hobbies. I know sometimes, especially in like youth activities, extracurriculars, you make friends simply out of your shared experience, your shared hobby. And we're going to go into a little bit more about that in the next one. Going on adventures, simply spending quality time together, enjoying each other's company is a fundamental aspect of many friendships. And so that's a common goal. Again, this is not like a hard, fast, your 10 commandments of your friendship is having fun is one of them. But all of this stuff, Friendeavor is based on the idea that if one person can be helped by mine or Kayla's shared experience, or our experiences, that we could help you avoid something or teach you something, then it will be worth it, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
having fun and enjoying each other's company is something that you will develop as you move on. Sometimes you start off only having fun with each other and you don't have any depth to your friendship whatsoever. But you'll get there, and that could be like a common goal that you have, is to get to that point in your friendship.
Right. And that might sound like it's a given, but I've seen friendships that are like super one-sided, that one person isn't enjoying the other's company as much. And maybe they're just staying in that kind of friendship situation for other reasons, obligatory reasons, or whatever it may be. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's worth mentioning for sure.
obligation puts such a strain on friendships, because if you don't feel like you can actually be authentic, or you can't pursue other relationships because someone is taking so much of your time. You find this a lot in parents who are friends and therefore their kids spend a lot of times together. I mean, that's a whole other thing to unpack, but yeah, you're definitely on track there. So like we mentioned, sometimes it's circumstance that brings you together. And so one thing that you'll find is like joint projects. So a common goal. So we're kind of splitting this up into two aspects here, and we're gonna kind of weave in and out of them because they fit together. But one is like physical, like actual goals, like we're going to achieve this together, and it could be marked by time, and like once this project is done, boom, that goal is achieved. Others are like emotional or abstract goals, like the ones we've kind of already talked about. So let's move into like the physical, measurable type of goals things, in the form of joint projects. So sometimes it is circumstance that brings people together. I use the example in the friendship pyramid how proximity can make an acquaintance a friend, or a friend a good friend, and you will see people like navigate different levels simply because of space and time, right? So the music department, I think, is a living, breathing example of this.
Yeah,
We, a group of people, have a common goal which brings us closer together. There are people that I work with 2, 3 times a week that I would never speak to, not because I don't like them, not because I don't, care for them or whatever, but it
just
is
because of
this,
proximity.
yes, this joint project of this being together has now not only made them an acquaintance, but like a colleague and like a friend and maybe even a good friend. I don't know that I would have the relationship with half the people that I do in that team if we had not sang together for the last 10 years. We've had a common goal, and we've worked and grown together, not just worked on stuff together, but grown together. We're all better than we were 10 years ago. At least I hope we are. And so the proximity of being together and having the same goal has thus, made us better friends,
Right.
even
Yeah.
created friendships to begin with. You'll find this on, like I said in the last one, extracurriculars. So when I was in high school, I was on student council. Student council is usually was used to be, I don't know if it still is, but it was fairly like, the popular kids, and I say that with air quotes, but those were the ones who got elected and were on there, whatever. And I got into ninth grade and I was like, man, I really want to be on student council. That seems like it's really cool. And so I applied, submitted my essay or whatever, and these kids who I never would have, like, we had gone to school together since fifth grade, but I never had a relationship with them. We suddenly have a common goal, and now, when we ended up moving, that was very difficult for them to let go of a friendship that they had developed in, freshman and sophomore year, of people that I never
Yeah.
would have had a relationship with otherwise. But because that shared goal of student council brought us together, that proximity zone closed, and we were closer, um, through a joint project, we became friends, had a common goal.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I coach our Bible quizzing team here at our church, and we have a couple quizzers that have quizzed together since they were young juniors, and now they're experienced seniors. But when they first started quizzing together, they did not know each other. They weren't really friends, but obviously, working as a team and trying to win every month at tournaments is going to
Hmm.
bring you closer together. And they're inseparable now, and
Yeah.
it's so fun working with them because they're best friends and they make you feel like you're one of their best friends too. It's just a
Yeah,
great time.
that's so
So
awesome.
that is something that principle applies for children, teens, adults, everyone.
Yeah. Another goal, and this one's not, it's not abstract, but it's not physical either. I mean, I guess it's kind of a mix of both. So it's not one or the other, but it is kind of a joint connectivity between those is personal growth and development. Personal growth is kind of a buzzword this day and age, personal care, personal time, me time, that kind of stuff. All of that is
Mm-hmm.
extremely valid. Um, but friends may share the goal of helping each other grow and develop as individuals. For example, you might notice that your friend struggles in a particular area. Say they struggle saying no to things. You could have a goal to help them become more balanced. You might have
Mm-hmm.
trouble giving people the benefit of the doubt or something like that. And they could help you grow and develop yourself to maybe be, I don't know if necessarily kindness is the right word, but just have a slightly more open mind. So when it comes to like offering advice and encouragement and constructive feedback to support each other's personal development, it's something that both parties have got to want to happen. Um, it's
Right.
not my job to parent my friends. However, if they expressly need help with something and they want to grow and they've shared with me a goal, guess what? I am on board. I will help them any way they can. And I have to let them do that for me too to become a better person. You also
Mhm.
find that in professional development as well.
Yeah. I like how you specified um, if they share with you that this is something they're trying to work on, then you as a friend can step in and help them work on it. Because I've seen in friendships where a friend might think that they detect that A, B, and C is wrong. They will go try to fix that in their friend, and their friend may not want that fixed.
Yeah.
So,
It's it's so hard because you walk a line, and I've done this my entire life, like not just as an adult, not just as a teenager, but you walk a line between intuitively wanting to be there for your friends, because that is often a media portrayal, is like, oh, the best friend knew what she was thinking before she even realized it, or she knew what she was feeling before she even realized it. And that makes you feel all warm and fuzzy to think that someone knows you that well. And it's just something that people, not everyone, but a lot of people long for, right? And so if you try to
right.
develop a friendship to the point where you push for that kind of stuff to happen, it can get kind of awkward. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to give exact examples because there's not really one to be had, but if this intuitive balance of like, okay, I need to step in for them because they don't know how to take care of themselves, what if that's the wrong call? And what if you
Right.
end up doing damage? Now, I would hope that your friendship is secure enough that even if something not great did happen, you would still be able to navigate through it. But then there's also the time that you need to actually say, oh man, I know that they do need help and I'm going to help them this way. I would just be very careful to not overstep in whatever way you pick,
Mm-hmm.
like whatever way you choose, right? Uh, my friends are pretty private. And so it's very hard to read what they need from me. So I kind of have to like navigate around, see how I can help. I got to the point where I just straight up said, I looked them dead in the eye and be like, this is what you're going through. Tell me if I can support you. Because I was tired guessing. Like I can't guess anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't, it's not that I was always getting it wrong, but it was like I was kind of always spinning my wheels because I didn't know what to do for them. So I put it out
Right.
on the table and I'm like, listen, next time you fast for your goals in life or whatever, next time you need
Mm-hmm.
you're going through and you're going through a time of consecration, you tell me when that is and I will do it for you, or I will do it with you. Because I'm not
Yeah.
going to say, okay, let's me and you fast for your future tomorrow. Like they got to want to
Yeah.
do it too. And so
Right.
personal growth and development is can be a common goal, but both of you have to be on the same page. You can't force it. You can't force it for someone else. But I would hope that you
Mm-hmm.
could expect a little bit for them to be there to do it with you, for you, or for themselves, you know.
Yes.
Common goals often, so friendships are not always linear, or they're not like two people are not necessarily like going through a parallel life together. You know, life is windy, it's a path, and emotionally you may be close on that path the whole time, but you know, when one person's going off on to one direction, the other one's going in the other one, whether that's a career change or an academic thing or whatever. And so if you find yourself becoming separate or becoming distant, you can loop back together. At least I think you can tag in with each other through like accomplishments,
Mm-hmm.
milestones. You don't have to let the winding paths of life be like, oh, well, I guess that's over because, you know, we're not on the exact same course. We're not going to the same college. We're not working the same job. We're not going to the same church. It doesn't have to be a parallel friendship. You don't have to be walking a parallel path. And so
Right.
celebration of each other's accomplishments can also not only help you tag in with each other, but you're like, hey, I want to lose these many pounds by this date. And then you know what? That also is a time for you to communicate with them around that time. Hey, how's it going? How can I support? You know, or hey, I'm gonna
Mhm.
do this with you. And so it's just another way to like tag in with each other and have a common goal while not walking the exact same path.
Right. I've had so many times where it feels like, oh, my friends and I haven't talked in a while, or we're getting a little bit distant. And I'll just bring up some like a little tiny victory that happened this week. And I'll bring it up in the group chat. And it's just a way to just get the group chat alive again, and
Absolutely.
everyone's celebrating each other, and it just brings you closer, more connected.
Yeah. And so like what if I think we talked about a few episodes ago about how there was a season where two of my friends were in college or the same university at the same time, different campuses, and then you and your friend were a graphic designer and two people were
Hmm.
wedding planning, whatever. And like that would be a season that you might feel separated from each other. But you know what? If you take extra interest in what they're going through at the time, you don't have to
Yeah,
feel left out of it. Make yourself a part of it.
for
Make
sure.
yourself be a part of that common goal. No, you're not actually trying to reach that goal for yourself, but you're helping them reach that goal, or you're just
Right.
showing interest in that goal. Um, and some things get accomplished together, some things individually. That is completely acceptable, and that's how life is. Regardless, you just got to have a shared goal or a practice in celebrating each other's milestones and being there for them, for each other. A lot of times on Friendeavor, we talk about, you know, the friend, you know, your friend, because there's no exact formula for friendship. Some people are exclusively a part of a friend group and it's like the squad or you know, whatever it is. Um,
Mhm.
I can't think of what was it they used to be called? There was some word before squad.
Pod Squad.
No, not that. It was something like I can't remember, but they would call them, you know, squad or whatever, but it was whatever back in the day. It doesn't matter. So a lot of times
Uh-huh.
we're in on Friendeavor, we're just talking about individual friendships, but group friendships are just as valid. And you might have closer friendships within that friend group too. But any way you slice it, a common goal of your friend group should be building a sense of belonging for every single member of your friend group.
Right.
The friends often aim to create a sense of belonging and a feeling of being valued and appreciated within the group. However, if one person is kind of on the fringes, or you have an odd number group or anything like that, it should be a collective group goal to make sure that everyone is welcome and everyone has got a creative is creating a warm, welcoming space. Like, what if one person goes through different struggles kind of than everyone else? And then
Hmm.
no one really is there for them and their struggles because it's just different. Friend groups are a different animal than individual friendships, I think. And the smaller the group, obviously, the easier it is to kind of focus on individual people. But when you get friend groups of like 6, 7, 8, 9 people that are as close as they want to be. Like, you can't really get much closer in that friend group. Making sure that everyone is still welcome to be a part of that friend group has got to be a
Right.
common goal of the group. Getting ostracized or getting isolated, I mean, that happens in the church all the time, right? Even if the church is loving and unified or whatever, people can get lost on the fringes so easily. And then before you know it, it's like,
Mhm.
I haven't seen so and so in a while. Oh yeah, they don't go here anymore. A
Right.
friendship could happen in a friendship too. And so a common goal of your group should be building a sense of belonging for everyone to be there. Every time the friend group thing comes up, I feel the need to say that if your friend group is a certain amount of people, that's fine. If you're a free for all, that's fine. But I think that the free for all people need to recognize that even if you're a free for all, you'll be friends with anyone. It still is a pyramid because
Mhm.
you're free for all. The person who just showed up in your life 2 weeks ago that gets to come to all your parties or whatever, they're not going to have the same connectivity to you. At least I've never seen this happen. They're not going to have the same like relationship with you as someone that you've known 7, 8, 9, 10 years or since childhood or whatever. And I don't think that it's fair to your other friends if you like act like, oh, this is my bestie, even though I just met her a week ago.
Mhm.
As long as you're not fooling yourself, you know what I mean? Like, I know bestie is kind of a cliche word right
It's
now
a
or
looser
whatever.
term these days.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if you are truly saying that someone that you just met 2 days ago is your bestie, why are you saying that? And like, if you truly mean it, if you're just using it as the slang, then whatever. But I think you're just setting yourself up for hurt. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think, I mean, like I said, it's I think it means something different nowadays. That's what I'm getting from like what I've seen on Instagram and whatnot. But yeah, it is a little bit strange that you meet someone at a conference, and then after that conference, you're ride or die.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely hit it off with people. It's happened to me where I've met someone and it's felt like I've known them like my entire life and our friendship was like, wow, this is crazy. I never whatever knew this could happen. But it still took a year or whatever time frame to realize, oh yeah, this is like a real friendship. This is not just a we have fun together friendship. I
Right,
don't know. I just get worried. I get worried about like young people that might get confused about some that kind of thing and then they get hurt because someone
right,
else is someone else's bestie immediately later, or like shortly thereafter. It just
right. I think we've talked about this on Instagram before, I think. But the whole idea of calling people your besties when the only time you see them is at conferences. So yeah, they're going to spend the night at your house for 4 days. You're constantly doing things. You're going to the services, you're staying up to 2 a.m., you're drinking energy drinks and you're doing all the fun things, but then they go right back home. And you're not giving the friendship time or space to test it, you know, with conflict and all that. So it's not really a good test of what the friendship is made of when you only see each other at conferences.
you bring up such a good point. And can I get on a soapbox right now?
Go ahead.
And the reason I feel comfortable doing this is because I know that you feel the same way. What is it with people who like go to a conference and then completely forget the people who are in their life? What is that?
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
Yeah,
Like you go to a conference and the people that are your actual friends pretend like they don't even know you. That has happened to me so many times.
I
And now
definitely had that happen to me.
I'm deeply into my 20s at this point, so it's not like it doesn't affect me anymore. But I remember as a teenager being like, are you kidding me? Like I just stayed the night at your
Yeah.
house 2 weeks ago, but now you won't even look at me? Like whose
Mm-hmm.
benefit is that for?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely super annoying. I don't get all worked up about it now, but it's annoying when it happens.
Yeah. I don't understand, like, what are they gaining from that, you know? If you're
Yeah.
busy, I get that. But if you're just like going to be with your new bestie, oh my God. Like, I don't know, that you are causing damage to your relationships for when real life comes back to it. Like when you get back to your real
Hmm.
life, you're like, okay, why are you talking to me now? You didn't want to talk to me a week ago. There's no really
Right.
valid reason for that. Um, because you shouldn't be ashamed of your friendships. No, yeah.
Right.
Okay, let me dismount from my soapbox. But since you brought up conferences, we had to work that in there.
Great.
Speaking of building a sense of belonging, that's we'll go ahead and transition out of that one now. We already talked about shared interests, hobbies, and how that affects. But those common goals can also be pursuing new hobbies together. Um,
Hmm.
I think we actually talked about this in a previous episode when we talked about 52 friend dates. One of the dates in there is try a random hobby, and I list, I don't know, like 10 hobbies or something like that that you can try. You don't have to pour a ton of money into it, but if you guys want to take up like crocheting together or try woodworking or something, not only is that potentially a new amazing hobby for you, it's a shared goal and you're working together, and teamwork activities, that kind of stuff really help to strengthen bonds.
Right. I don't know if anyone else is like this, but I'm like this. I prefer if we're gonna take on a new thing, I'd prefer it to be new for both of us.
Yeah,
There are times where I love my friends to teach me things, and there are times where if I'm gonna be learning something new and we're gonna do this new thing together, then I want it to be new for all of us, so we all
yeah,
look stupid.
yeah, because what if one person excels and then the
Hmm.
other person's like immediately lose interest? You know, my dad and I took up chess for a while, and I kind of had a little bit of background knowledge, and so I taught him how to play. Well, then I was winning, like, I don't know, 95% of our games. And he's like, yeah, I don't want to play anymore. He's like, it's not fun. He wasn't being like whiny about it, but he's like,
Right.
it's not fun to play if it's, we play 100 games and you in 95. And so I could definitely see where you're coming from about that. Weaving back out of like the physical goal kind of thing and back into the emotional. I just want to touch back on that advice and guidance thing about how it's okay to learn and professional development and all that stuff. But I got to touch on this again. You and your friend have to be on the same page about giving and receiving advice. You have
Yes.
to be receptive to it. They have to be receptive to it. You don't necessarily have to follow their exact advice, but can you explain why? Because what if it's like,
Mhm.
what if there's just lingering questions? I kind of visualize, um, like something that's hanging in the air, right? Well, it's not just a visualization; it's an actual thing. It's like the suspense hung in the air, the words echoed through the air, whatever. And so they give you advice or try to help you through something, and you don't take it, you don't respond to them, and then it gets questions in that person's mind like, oh, did I offend them? Did I say something wrong? So th- will they be hurt? Will they be upset? Can you have you need to have a common shared understanding of what mutual guidance means to your friendship. So the common
Right.
goal, um emotionally or whatever, is so that you're just all on the same page, um
Yeah.
and it won't be a detriment in the future.
And when you're providing your friend with feedback that they have not shared with you, that they feel like they need to work on, so this is something that you're noticing that you're going to go ahead and bring up to them, that's okay because we need that sometimes. But there is a correct way and an incorrect way to do it. Um, I know because I have been treated the correct way and the incorrect way. So a good way to go about that would be to tell your friend, hey, do you notice that when you say this, this happens? Or do you notice a pattern here? What's your thought process look like when you do this?
Yeah,
Um, and have you ever noticed what the outcome when you do that? Okay. Asking the questions instead of coming at your friend and saying, you really need to work on this. Uh, I was just told recently, um, this is something you really need to work on. And to me, I was like, that is not something I need to work on. And,
Also, who says that?
sometimes
Who just comes out and is like that blatant about it?
well, you'd be surprised. Um, and sometimes friends need to be told that they need to work on something. But to me, it was something that was like totally like is not a matter of right and wrong. It's a matter of opinion.
Hmm.
And I was like, I don't really need to work on that.
Yeah, I think that's the aspect of common goals that gets missed. And I always feel like we're kind of painting with a broad brush when we do episodes, well, just every episode, because every situation is unique. And if I
Yeah.
went to my friend's house right now, I was like, listen, we need to have a common goal. She would say, what on earth are you talking about? Get out of my house, go home. Because it's not something that is like, it's not like something that's in like a marriage where you are so open and expressive, like you say every single thing because you keep absolutely nothing from each other. A friendship is not on the same level as a marriage, okay? But if your goal, and I'm just gonna go ahead and jump to the end here because this is really what it was leading up to. If your goal when you have a friendship with someone is to have a long lasting companionship of a type, like a long last like a friendship, a long lasting friendship, you gotta have some mutual understandings. It like I said, it does not have to be expressed, it doesn't have to be like a list of common goals, but you don't build friendships by just kind of guessing at how each other is feeling about stuff. You
Right.
don't start a friendship with the, okay, well, I'm going to hold on to this relationship for a year and then I'm going to end it. I can't think of a single time that I made a friend that I was like, well, I'll be friends with them for now, but I'm not going to be friends with them for always. That's not how friendship rolls.
Mm-hmm.
Life
Right.
does, interrupt relationships sometimes and friendships. And we've talked about life transitions and all that kind of stuff before. But when you start a friendship with someone, I would hope, have the common goal that you're going to be friends forever, for a lifetime.
Right.
Because there's not really
Yeah.
any intense commitment like there is like in a marriage. So, but if you want to make it work and if you want it to be sincere, you got to have, common goals.
You have to walk into it with that intent, even if it's not a forever friendship. You have to walk into it with that intention.
Yeah. Um, I don't think we've done a whole episode on this, but since we're here and this going through common goals didn't take that long, I'm going to go ahead and transition us to a very similar topic. And I have done a YouTube video on this, and I think I may have even mentioned it, but there's two types of friendships that kind of kickstarted the whole Friendeavor teaching aspect. Um, one is called I have certain labels for these friendships, but it's not just supposed to be like kitschy. It's supposed to have an actual, meaning, like an understanding to it. So one is called the yo-yo, one is called the revolving door. And they might seem like they're the same thing, but they're different. And when I explain them, hopefully you'll understand what I mean and how these types of friendships typically don't have the common goals that we've discussed, and how it can affect a lot of people in a negative way if it's bad enough. We're almost wrapped up with this episode, but there's I really want to break down these two friendship types before we go, because they really relate to this topic. So firstly, let's talk about the yo-yo. And I am going to use a visualization on my hand, and I'll try to describe it to you as I'm doing it. But obviously, you can watch this actual episode on YouTube, or you can go watch we'll link it in the show notes, the link of the original video that I did, because it also has the visualizations in there too. But the friendship that's the yo-yo type is that, just like a yo-yo, uh, you know, you fling it out and it is away from the hand, right? It is still attached to the hand, but it's away from the hand. Like if you're using it in its proper function, a yo-yo is away from the hand. However, in a friendship, that's not necessarily the proper function. So the yo-yo is out. It has a relationship that's a friendship that they just think is the friendship. It's the best friendship. It's the yin to their yang, the blonde to the brunette. It's the type of friendship that is in the, portrayed in media, and it's true best friendship. However, that friendship will end eventually. And in a yo-yo friendship, that friendship will end. Well, the yo-yo snaps back to the hand. What is the hand? The hand is the secure place for the yo-yo to go when it has no one else to turn to. So when the yo-yo is done with its fling, literally, when it's flung away from the hand, when it's done with its flash in the pan friendship, it snaps back to the only secure place it knows. This is typically a friendship of childhood or a familial friendship. Like, um, the person is usually a very strong individual because the hand is not affected by the yo-yo. At least it may used to have been. It may used to be very hurt every time the yo-yo flung away from it because it didn't understand why that friendship wasn't enough. And obviously you don't have to just have one friend, but it's just the way the yo-yo goes. And so when the
Mhm.
yo-yo gets hurt and it needs security and it needs stability, it snaps back to the hand. Uses the hand for a little while to be its best friend, and then gets caught up in another friendship and is flung out again. It is not a problem to have more than one friend. That is not the situation that the yo-yo's in. The yo-yo, it gets wrapped up in one individual, one person, rides that friendship for 6, 8, 12 months, and then something chaotic happens. And when they have nowhere else to turn because they've ostracized everyone else in their life, it snaps back to this only sense of stability that they have. So in that instance, the issue is not so much the yo-yo because the yo-yo is just going to keep doing that until something major happens. The issue there is the friend who is the hand, because the hand has got to be strong enough to realize that the yo-yo, they could still be there for the yo-yo, but the yo-yo cannot be their entire life. It cannot be their only friendship. It could still be there for them, but it cannot be the last relationship they ever have.
Mhm.
The other example of this common goals type of friendship is the revolving door. And this is exactly what it sounds like. The friend is the door, and it just swings, and then a best friend comes out, or excuse me, a best friend goes in, spins around, and then pops out the other side. And it is
Yep.
literally like you can almost get it down to a science of how quickly the turnaround will be. It is usually somewhere between like 12 to 18 months, maybe even 8 to 18 months, that a person will be in the door before they're flung out and another one takes their place. And the replacement process is almost instantly. It is like they're friends with one and they're
Mhm.
shoot through there and they're friends with another. And what's super interesting about this, at least to me, it could not be to anyone else, is like if during that spinny wheel time, if the revolving door is dating someone and the best friend that's in there, if they get flung out before they get engaged, they will not even be in the wedding.
That
However,
is true.
if they get engaged while they're in the revolving door,
During that small pocket of time.
they'll probably be the
Yeah.
maid of honor. It's
Mhm.
the weirdest thing because it's such an unstable and like limited friendship with not any depth. It's like a flash in the pan. And the timing is so particular that you literally could not even be a part of this person's life in the most
Yeah.
serious moment, even though you just spent the last year and a half of your life being friends with them. Very, very close, at least on the surface, very close. And then if you just miss the window, you're out.
Yeah.
And so that's the
It's
revolving
so
door.
funny.
And people can so easily get hurt if they do not understand, if they get caught in one of those situations, especially young people.
Yeah.
So that's when we talk about common goals. It's not so much that you have to sit down with your friends and say, "Hey, this is what it means to be friends with me." No, it's that you need to like use discernment and realize, "Hey,
Mhm.
is this a relationship I actually want to get going to last a lifetime? Do they actually want to be friends with me?" And all the while, you don't have to put walls up and you don't have to put guards up, but be mindful of what situations you're putting yourself in. And if you need to distance yourself for your own safety and for your own health, like
Mhm.
security, do it.
Yeah. And boundaries are different than walls. We've done a
Absolutely.
post on that before. So definitely don't have to have walls or guards up, but set boundaries where they're needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those boundaries will help you realize if the goals that you have are the same as the other people. Because if the other person just needs someone to be their security for a minute and then they dump you, well, you're only going to get hurt in the process. So that wraps up common goals. I hope we did it justice, and I know I say that a lot of times, but because we like to talk in vague terms, not just for not just so that it applies to your life, but also so that individual situations do not get, you know, found out or whatever.
Mhm.
Because everything we talk about is real life, and that's the only way that you learn is seeing examples of stuff. So, um,
Yeah.
don't forget to check out Friendeavor .net. We have the forum on there and we have a place for you to drop your questions. You can also email us, friendeavorpodcast@gmail.com, if you've got questions, comments on an episode, or you have an idea. What is something that you want to discuss? What is something that you would like to learn about? Let us know and we'd be happy to look into that. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will see you next time on Friendeavor.
See you next week.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Friendeavor the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you enjoyed today's content, leave a review and share with a friend. You can find the show notes on our website, www.friendeavor.net, and in the description of this episode.
Friendship is a journey. It's an endeavor. We'll see you next time on Friendeavor.